It's a huge business meeting that could make or break our company. People like you don't belong here. If you're around, nothing will get accomplished. Are you looking to speak with the CEO? Of course. Well then, I'll be happy to listen. Are you saying you're the CEO? Of what company? I'm here to do business with Kyle's company. Well, actually, I'm the CEO of that company. What? Yeah, so there's no problem, right? Here's my card. It had been 20 years since I last saw her, back in our college days, and even now, she still looked down on me. I handed her my business card, and as she took it, her face quickly paled. My name is James, and I'm 45, working in the ed industry. My old college buddy Kyle works with me. I secretly think of him as my partner in crime. We both went to a prestigious university. While I barely scraped by during the entrance exams and struggled to keep up after enrolling, Kyle was a top student, there on a scholarship. You can't seem to do anything that comes close to Kyle's level. Aren't you embarrassed to hang out with him? Give it a rest. Being friends has nothing to do with grades. And besides, your grades aren't that much better than mine. True, but I still do a little better, don't I? Maybe you should get better grades before you talk like that. Are you teasing James again, Sarah? Give him a break. Yeah. Lucky for you, James. Kyle's here to save you. Stop rubbing it in. In college, besides Kyle, we had another close friend, a girl named Sarah. Like me, she wasn't the best student, but she was incredibly efficient. No matter how last minute our study sessions were, she always scored higher than I did. She was also beautiful and charming, which meant that in practical classes and labs, the guys in her group would practically do everything for her. But with Kyle and me, her charm had no effect. We were close friends, and unlike the other guys, we didn't cater to her whims. This frustrated her, and she often lashed out at me. She didn't dare challenge Kyle, though maybe because he was a star student. We argued a lot, but it wasn't like we hated each other. The fact that we could say exactly what we thought to each other was a sign of how close we were. We were a mismatched trio in terms of personality and academic performance, but that somehow balanced things after graduation, though we went our separate ways. I barely made it, but I finally got a job in the IT field I wanted. Me too. I ended up at an IT company. Looks like we'll be able to share some work-related woes. Yeah, right. You think you and Kyle will be dealing with the same level of problems. He'll be giving advice, and you'll be the one asking for it. You might as well stop talking to him after graduation. Come on, Sarah, it's our graduation day. You could be a little nicer. This is me being nice. I'm giving you extra kindness today. If this is you being nice, then you're normally close to 0 on the kindness scale. You too, can you please stop fighting, just for today? Even on our last day as students, Kyle was there, playing peacemaker between me and Sarah. After graduation, we kept in touch for a while, but as time passed, our communication dwindled. By the 3rd year, we'd almost lost contact entirely. It's just how life goes sometimes. Then, 10 years later, out of the blue, Kyle contacted me. He wanted to meet up. It had been 5 years since I last saw him, at his wedding. How's married life? Your daughter must be about 2 now, right? She's hit the terrible 2s. It's tough. You're a full-fledged dad now. What about Sarah? I haven't heard from her in about 7 years. I don't keep in touch with her that often either, but she's doing well, from what I hear. She's really focused on her work. I invited her today, but she turned me down saying she had work. I'm surprised she's become such a workaholic. I remember she missed your wedding because of work too. Yeah, she did. But we still keep in touch. I'm sure the 3 of us will meet up again sometime. Maybe, but there's something I don't get. What's that? Why does she take your calls but ignore mine? It's like, even after all these years, she still looks down on me. Maybe it just means nothing's changed between us. Isn't that a good thing? Kyle and I spent the evening catching up, making small talk and quickly emptying our glasses. When Kyle finally put down his glass with a solid clink, his expression turned serious. It was time to get to the real reason for our meeting. How's work been for you lately? Now that I'm past 30, I'm finally getting trusted with real responsibilities. How about you? Pretty much the same. I always thought the IT industry was more meritocratic, where if you worked hard and produced results, you'd get recognized regardless of age. Yeah, but here in America, that's not really how things work. Companies say they want younger generations to step up, but it's still all about seniority. They expect us to follow orders from the older folks. Doesn't that bother you? Sure, sometimes. But what can you do? Sarah was right about one thing. The issues Kyle and I faced were on different levels. While I had resigned myself to the way things were, Kyle couldn't stand it. And his solution was something I never would have considered. I'm thinking of going independent. I want to work on my own terms, focusing more on the clients than on the profits of a big corporation. You're a smart guy. I'm sure you'll succeed. You have my support. Come with me. Where? I mean, let's start a company together. Don't play dumb. I wasn't playing dumb. I was just so caught off guard by Kyle's proposal that it took me a moment to process what he was saying. My face felt hot with embarrassment, even though the drinks had already flushed my cheeks red. Fortunately, it masked how flustered I felt. I took a sip of water to steady myself and then asked the obvious question. Why me? I'm not as talented as you. I just slow you down. That's not true. You've got things I don't. I need you to complement my weaknesses. Come on, anything I've got, you've got too. No way. The reason we were such good friends in college was because we balanced each other out. Look, I'm planning to take a few more years to get things ready, so just think about it, okay? Kyle looked away and called the server over to refill his glass. Clearly, he wanted to leave it at that for now. I wasn't convinced I had the skills to help start a company, but the conversation stuck with me. However, after hearing my partner's story, my attitude towards work unconsciously changed. My boss yells at me unfairly. There's still work left to do, but since it's the last train, I head home. Until now, I had accepted these things as inevitable, but after hearing my partner's story, I could no longer do so. Gradually, the anxiety within me grew, asking, is this really okay? Then, one day after work, when I arrived at my home station on the last train, I found myself calling my partner. Sorry to bother you at this hour. About that thing we talked about before I'm in. After hanging up the phone, I felt like my steps up the station stairs were lighter than usual. Since then, my partner and I have started a system development company, and it's been over 10 years now. Our company's history is still short, but in this decade, we've grown considerably. We're now a mid-sized company. With the increasing demand for IT companies due to the promotion of DX, digital transformation, and the spread of remote work, along with the continuous development of new technologies like AI and IoT, we've been able to grow rapidly by riding the wave of the times, even as other industries struggle with expanding demand. Due to this momentum, we've even received investments from large corporations. So, while we're technically a mid-sized company, we're also considered a quasi-large corporation. Achieving the status of a large company in just 10 years means our business has been nothing but smooth. While the company was doing well, I received a call from Sarah after a long time. It seemed she wanted to consult about work. Of course, the call wasn't to me, but to my partner. Even though it's been more than 20 years since we graduated from university, our relationship hasn't changed at all. However, our positions and circumstances have changed significantly, so things weren't going to be like they were back in our student days. I heard a bit about you starting a company 10 years ago, but I never imagined it would grow into such a large company. No, it's thanks to everyone working hard. I couldn't have done it alone. Don't be so modest. You're the CEO, right? You should be more confident. She came to our company. It was our first time seeing each other in about 20 years. Since she's the same age as me, she should be 45, but dressed in a suit, she looked no older than her early 30s. As beautiful as ever, a so-called beautiful witch. I'm working for a chemical manufacturer that produces advanced materials now. I want Kyle to develop a system for us. Develop a system? Wouldn't a package solution be enough? The problem is, none of the package solutions have all the features we need. What we want is a system for managing orders, sales, production, inventory, and accounting. A core system, in other words. Then, wouldn't an existing product do? The thing is, we also want to link it with our overseas branches. We have one in Vietnam, but we're also planning to open a branch in Japan. That's a sign of good business. Actually, it's not so straightforward. The domestic market in the States is saturated, and with the declining labor force, it's expected that labor shortages will only get worse. So, many companies are now aiming to expand their markets by moving overseas. But our company doesn't have the funds to just pop up overseas branches, so we're actually shrinking our domestic operations to focus on expanding internationally. That's a bold move. Yes, it is. It's good to open branches overseas, but each country will have its own factories to manage, which will incur costs and pose significant risks if we fail. The potential losses are immeasurable. And since we're planning to open more and more branches, it's a plan that's really about betting the company's future. I understood what she wanted and why she needed it, but there's something I didn't understand. The three of us were in a meeting room together. Since she came alone, we decided to talk among just the three of us as former classmates. But why is she only talking to my partner, even though I'm here too? Could it be that she can't see me? Feeling an inexplicable unease, I interrupted the conversation to make my presence known. Up until now, it was just Vietnam, so you could personally keep an eye on the sales and inventory. But going forward, that won't be possible. So you want a system that's easy to manage and understand, right? Yes, that's exactly it. So Kyle, I've heard that a full custom development from scratch is quite expensive. Is there any way to keep costs down while still getting a good system? A full scratch development, huh? It will certainly cost a lot. My partners seem to be contemplating the large-scale development. Despite my attempt to join the conversation, she dismissed me with a single word, yes, and went back to treating me like I was invisible. Why was I being treated this way? I wondered for a moment and felt a little hurt. She had been cold to me during our university days as well. But that was back in our student days, just some playful banter. However, being ignored like this at 45 years old, especially in a professional setting, was much more emotionally taxing. Kyle, you're the CEO, right? You can handle this, can't you? I'm really in a bind here. Help me. I'll do my best. Really? That's so reassuring, Kyle. I knew I could count on you. I watched their business conversation from a detached perspective. She was holding my partner's hand, looking at him with moist eyes. It was clearly a business tactic. Since she knew us from before, she was creating a friendly atmosphere to negotiate better terms. That's why she was only being friendly to the CEO, my partner. We couldn't just be open and honest with each other anymore, as we did in university. But I can't believe she's still using the same tactics at 45 that she used back then. She must have forgotten over the last 20 years that this approach doesn't work on my partner and me. For now, I've got a good idea of what features you need. I'll prepare the documents and an estimate. You mean you, the CEO, will be personally handling this? That's impressive. No wonder your employees trust you so much, which is why you were able to grow your company into a large one in just 10 years. And what about you? Are you going to help out? After 30 minutes of discussion, she finally addressed me. But her expression was different from when she looked at my partner. It was as if she had seen something unpleasant. I'm not very involved in development work anymore. You work at a system development company, but don't do development? So what do you do? Sales, perhaps? Well, something like that. I also handle various administrative tasks. Administrative tasks? That's just menial work. You're a founding member, aren't you? You should be doing more for the company. No, James is always there to help me out. You even defend your employees, that's admirable. Truly the mark of a CEO. Her flattery of my partner didn't stop. The difference in how she treated me versus my partner was so stark that it almost felt refreshing. Well then, When you have the estimate ready, give me a call. Oh, that reminds me, since it's just the three of us, I completely forgot to give you my business card. Do we really need business cards between us? We're friends, aren't we? We might talk business, but do we need company titles and all that? You can just call me directly instead of going through the company, like you did this time. Oh, I see. If you say so, then I guess it's fine. My partner and I decided to walk her out, showing her to the door as a gesture of politeness. But when we reached the elevator, I experienced yet another instance of discrimination. How far do you intend to see me off? If the seal goes too far, it won't set a good example for your employees. Kyle, you can stay here. Thanks. What about me? You're just a menial worker, right? You should at least see me out. Hey, I have my own position to consider too, you know? Is that your pride as a founding member? I bet you're just a burden on Kyle anyway. You two never change, do you? It's good that you're still close, but don't fight in the company. If you're going to argue, do it outside. As he had done 20 years ago, my partner stopped our bickering. But while he may have thought it was just playful banter like in university, it probably wasn't. She genuinely looked down on me. I could see it in her eyes. And when the elevator doors closed and it was just the two of us, she confirmed it with her words. Why Kyle chose someone as low spec as you is beyond me. It's almost one of the world's 7 mysteries. Hey, even though we're old classmates, we're also business partners now. You could at least show some respect in how you interact. Respect? For you? That's funny. She laughed lightly as if amused by the idea. Oh, I see. That's how it is. She seemed to think it was fine to treat someone handling menial tasks in a sloppy manner. Honestly, being spoken to this bluntly was infuriating. However, I wasn't a child. I escorted her properly to the entrance and bowed my head as she left. But she didn't even say goodbye, didn't even glance back at me, and walked away briskly without a second thought. 2 weeks later, she came back to the company because we had completed the estimate. Sorry to make you come all the way here. It should be us going to you, really. Since the CEO himself is handling this directly, it's only natural that I come here. But let's not bother with such formalities since we're old classmates. So, did you manage to lower the cost? You're sharp. But before we talk about costs, let me explain the system first. It's a big project, so it's going to take about 6 months. Is that timeline okay? It should be fine, considering it will take about that long to prepare the factory in Japan. Once again, I faded into the background. Her tone of voice always perked up when talking to my partner. As I listened to their conversation, I suppressed the slight discomfort I felt from her voice. I'm not familiar with the technical details, so I'll take this back and have someone else review it. But about the estimate, $16,000 seems too high. We were expecting it to be around $10,000. In terms of scale, it would normally be around $10,000, but including all your requested features brought it up to this price. If you want to lower the cost, we'll have to cut some features. That's not an option. The company told me not to cut any features because they're all necessary. Can't you somehow get it down to $10,000? Don't be unreasonable. There's no way we can cut $6,000. Okay, then just a little bit lower. The company is pushing me to negotiate a better deal. Hey, you shouldn't be saying that in front of us. But it's Kyle, so I'm being open. Come on, please. But even so, once again, she took my partner's hand and gazed into his eyes. When it came to this, my partner was weak. Aware of this, he looked at me with an expression that clearly sought help. Seeing him in need, I shook my head slightly, my face serious. The price has already been reduced to the limit. Discuss it with your company and see what they can do. All right, I understand. As my partner let go of her hand, he firmly rejected her request with a burst of words. I think he did well. She, on the other hand, looked clearly dissatisfied. But it wasn't just the failure to reduce the estimate that upset her. Kyle, you can stay here. Thanks. As for you, come with me. She specifically requested me to join her in the elevator. As soon as the doors closed, she started speaking quickly. I didn't miss it, you know. I saw you shaking your head when Kyle was about to lower the estimate. I'm talking business with Kyle, the CEO. Why are you butting in? My company told me to get the system made for $10,000. Now I'll have to ask them to increase the budget by $6,000. I know you probably can't understand this since you're just a menial worker, but failing to meet expectations can hurt your reputation at work. Is that what you wanted? To get that extra $6,000? Well, I suppose you don't make much as a menial worker, so you're just greedy for any money you can grab, huh? Ugh, it's disgusting. Just being around you makes my suit feel filthy. I'll have to spray it with deodorizer when I get home. Like a dam that had burst, she unleashed a torrent of complaints. How she managed to keep talking without pausing was beyond me. She must have been really angry with me. However, I hadn't done anything to spite her. Yet, I had to endure such intense criticism. The elevator ride and the time it took for her to exit the building were about 3 minutes. During that short period, she unloaded all her grievances onto me like a machine gun. In that moment, I was reminded of my old bosses who would yell at me for no reason during my days as a salaried employee. I began to associate her with fear. And just when I thought it was over, she launched an unbelievable follow-up attack. It happened a week later. She called me, which was unusual. It's rare for you to call me. You're done for. You'll regret making me angry. What are you talking about? I asked Kyle to fire you. Wait, what? That makes even less sense. Exactly as I said. A lowly worker like you shouldn't be getting in my way. I had dinner with Kyle last night. Not as a business meeting, but as friends. I kindly advised him that you'd only hold him back, and it would be better to let you go. So, what did he say? He said, "He'll think about it." That guy. I nearly sighed but held it back, not wanting her to read my emotions. Since he didn't immediately say no, Kyle must have had some doubts about you. You're going to be cut soon. My condolences. Sorry for pushing Kyle to make the decision. Anyway, I'm coming to your company again today, but there's no need for you to show up. This system development is a crucial part of our company's future, and it's rare to have the chance to negotiate so closely with the CEO of such a big company. So don't get in the way. Just like before, she quickly rattled off her thoughts and then abruptly hung up the phone. According to her, I was about to be fired from the company that I had helped build with my partners and where I had worked hard for over 10 years. That would be a serious problem. At 45 years old, I would be unemployed. I've worked in it, but unlike my partner, I don't have advanced technical skills. There are plenty of people out there with more expertise than I have, and considering my age, finding another job would likely be tough. That would be a disastrous situation. She started by making me uncomfortable, then instilled fear, and now she was pushing me into a desperate situation by threatening my job. But this is only if I actually get fired. In reality, there's no way that's going to happen. She's underestimated me and gotten too full of herself. I've been patient and mature up until now, but I can't tolerate her trying to get Kyle to fire me. It's time for her to learn what happens when you look down on people and get too cocky. Even though she told me on the phone, "You don't need to come," there was no way I was going to stay home, so I went to the office. She was scheduled to arrive first thing in the morning. I waited for her in the meeting room. "Kyle, are you here already?" What are you doing here? I told you not to come since you're getting fired." "Where's Kyle?" "Kyle got a call from an important client. He'll be here as soon as he's done." As expected of a company CEO, always busy. Unlike you, who clearly has nothing better to do than wait around in this room before I even arrived. It must be nice to have so much free time, but I guess that's why you're poor since you don't do any real work. As soon as she saw me, she started looking down on me. It was as if she was programmed to do so. We're about to have important negotiations that could decide our company's future. A lowly person like you should leave. You'll only mess things up. Well, even if you say that, Kyle did ask me to get the conversation started. You're not capable of handling this. I came here to talk to the company CEO, not you. So you want to talk to the CEO of this company? Yes, I do. Then I'll listen to what you have to say. Wait, what? Are you saying you're the CEO? Of which company? I'm here to do business with Kyle's company. Actually, I'm the CEO of this company. Huh? So there's no problem, right? Speaking of which, when you first came to our company, you said, we don't really need to exchange business cards, so we never did. Here, this is my card. I smoothly handed her my business card. She took it as if she was touching something dirty, and then her face turned pale as she read it. What? A business card? Are you trying to say that because you're a founding member, you're not just a menial worker, but have some fancy title? But Kyle is the CEO, so even if you have a title like manager or something. Wait, representative director. Yes, that's right. I'm the representative director of this company. Does that mean you're the CEO? More or less. Then what about Kyle? Did someone mention my name? My partner, who had just finished his phone call, walked in. What perfect timing. Apparently, she thought so too, as she quickly turned to him and demanded loudly, Kyle, give me your business card. Huh? Just give it to me quickly. He calmly handed her his business card, and she started laughing. Then she looked at me with the same condescending expression as before. Oh, I see. Kyle's business card also says Representative Director. You made a fake business card so I wouldn't look down on you, didn't you? There's no need to be so stubborn. Hey, Kyle, this guy made a fake business card and has been pretending to be the CEO. That's a fireable offense, right? James hasn't lied about anything. Huh? What do you mean? James is indeed a representative director. What? What does that mean? Then what about you, Kyle? I'm also a representative director. Wait a minute. That makes no sense. This is driving me crazy. How can one company have two CEOs? Her eyes darted back and forth between me, my partner, and the business cards, clearly in a state of panic. The idea that a company could only have one representative had completely confused her. If I explained the actual rule, she might calm down. Did you think a company can only have one representative director? There's no limit to the number of representative directors. The term CEO isn't even a legal term. The correct legal term is representative director. Since there's no limit to how many people can hold that title, both Kyle and I can be representative directors without any problem. Even if it's allowed by the rules, does it make sense to have two CEOs? It does, actually. There are indeed reasons. For example, if one of the representative directors encounters an unexpected situation like an accident, disaster, or illness, the other can step in to handle things. Or in the case of a joint venture, having two representative directors can maintain fairness. Also, having two representative directors can prevent the CEO from running the company unilaterally. You sometimes see companies with more than one representative director, right? What's our reason? To complement each other's weaknesses in joint management? That's it. Realizing that there's no limit on the number of representative directors seemed to help her snap out of her panic. However, learning that both my partner and I are representative directors only gave rise to a new question in her mind. What do you mean? Whatever James can do, Kyle can do too, right? Is there really a need for James when you have the capable Kyle? I thought the same thing when Kyle asked me to start this company together with him. Sure, Kyle is smart and competent, but he's also the kind of person who avoids conflicts and has a bit of a let sleeping dogs lie attitude. He used to break up our fights all the time, didn't he? And when you tried to force a price cut, he didn't refuse immediately because he didn't want to cause friction. Being peace-loving is a good thing, but it's not enough in business. Sometimes you have to say tough things to employees, and when you're in negotiations, you need to push back against unfavorable terms. James, on the other hand, doesn't shy away from conflict and says what needs to be said, even if it causes friction. I just can't do that. This isn't something you can just learn, no matter how smart you are. That's why I rely on James. I handle the technical side of things like development, and James takes charge of sales and strategic management. So, it's a division of roles. It's true that I wasn't as academically gifted as my partner. However, my partner has his own weaknesses, and I've been covering for him in those areas within the company. Knowing that I've been fulfilling my role as a representative director seemed to make her lose all strength in her body. So, Kyle was the one discussing the estimates, but James was the one deciding on the costs. Why didn't you say anything sooner? Were you just having fun deceiving me? Don't make it sound so bad. You were the one who said, "We're friends, right? We don't need to bother with titles like company or position," when you first came to visit. That's why we didn't exchange business cards, remember? Her complexion, which had been pale, was now turning white. She likely knew well enough that I wasn't as mild-mannered as my partner. Now let's get down to business, shall we? I placed the estimate on the table. Then, with a quick stroke, I increased the amount from $16,000 to $20,000. Hey, sure, I didn't know you were the CEO and looked down on you. But adding $4,000 just out of spite is low. Don't make it sound so bad. I'm not adding anything. I'm just restoring the original price. What? Kyle had already knocked off $4,000 from the standard price when you came in for negotiations. You asked for $10,000, but we'd already discounted the price, so there was no way we could go any lower. Do you really think a system of this scale could be built for just $10,000? What kind of sloppy accounting is that? Don't be so harsh. It's not uncommon for companies to underestimate the budget for system development. There you go again, trying to avoid conflict. This woman just tried to get me fired, and you're still going easy on her? When she said, "Fire him," you should have shot her down right away. If I had, she would have gotten confrontational with me. It was easier to just say, "I'll think about it," and let it slide. Because you figured I'd handle the fallout. Yeah, you'd wrap it up better than I could. Well, I can't complain since that's my role here. And I leave all the technical stuff to you after all. Exactly. We've always divided the work like this, and it's worked out so far. Once again, I was reminded of what a good partner Kyle was. Now that the big reveal that I was also a representative director was out of the way, Kyle and I felt that the discussion was wrapping up. However, she didn't seem to want it to end just yet. Don't you dare end the conversation like this. Our budget is $10,000. There's no way we can afford $20,000. At least bring it back down to $16 million. If you don't, I'll take this proposal to another company. You sure you're okay with that? Feel free. But if you do, you'll be in even more trouble. What do you mean? Won't you be in trouble if you don't get the job? Our company might be able to compete with big corporations in terms of technical ability, but we're really more of a mid-sized company. That's why we can be flexible with pricing. But if you go to a big corporation without any connections, the price won't be just $20,000. It'll probably be even more. Didn't your company tell you to try and keep the negotiations as close to $10,000 as possible? If you come back with a price that's twice that, your reputation will take a hit. She was glaring at me, clenching her teeth in frustration. I understood her frustration, but she had no choice but to take this $20,000 estimate back to her company. That's just how business works. She couldn't very well come back with a higher estimate from another company just because she didn't like me. Fine, I'll take this back and discuss it with my company again. She stormed out of the meeting room. Kyle and I exchanged exasperated looks. Later, her company agreed to a deal for $18,000. It wasn't out of pity for her. When she returned to her company and reported that the original estimate of $16,000 had risen to $20,000, they naturally asked why. Unable to lie about something as significant as a $20,000 contract, she had to confess that she had looked down on me, treating me like a college buddy, and even tried to get me fired by talking to my partner. While it was commendable that she was honest, it wasn't something that could be easily forgiven. Her company's CEO personally came to apologize to me, promising to take disciplinary action for her inappropriate behavior towards another company. As a gesture of goodwill, I suggested we settle at $18,000, which the CEO accepted. She was subsequently demoted for her unprofessional conduct with another company's CEO, and the story of her behavior quickly spread within her company. Now, she's apparently considering a job change, as she's losing her place in the company. She might have been capable at her jobs, but her attitude, stuck in a college mindset, led her to this outcome. Kyle and I continue to work together as partners. There are still areas where we rely on each other, but that's why we complement each other's weaknesses. We've worked that way until now, and I doubt it will change in the future. I truly feel fortunate to have found such a great partner. I want to continue working with Kyle and protect this company we've built together.